Hello, I am Gina Halen-Kavicki, and I'd like to welcome you to our 2014 election edition of Carver in Focus. Tonight, we will be interviewing a number of the candidates, including all of the candidates running for the office of Selectman. Just a friendly reminder, get out and vote on April 26th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Carver High School Gymnasium. If you don't vote, you surrender your voice. Now, a bit about the format for tonight's conversations. Each of the candidates has provided the questions they will be asked tonight. Let me repeat that. Each candidate has provided the questions they wanted to answer. Now let's meet the candidates. Hi Andrew, welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're running for this year?
Thank you, Gina. My name is Andrew Solovota. I'm running for school committee. I live at 14 Gate Street. And a little bit about my background. Lifetime resident of the town. Graduated class in '99. Then went on to college, went to Salve Regina, graduated class of 2003. Then I came back, have two children, 4 and 2. And a beautiful wife, Melinda.
Tell me, Andrew, what made you decide to run?
Well, that decision came from the fact that, growing up in a small town such as this, you have to get involved. And my family got involved, and I've watched my neighbors get involved. I've watched just good people in the town get involved, and that's what you're supposed to do. So I'm 33 now and have 2 young kids, like I've said. And it's a good opportunity for a new set of people to, kind of take the reins a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Tell me, Andrew, what other activities are you involved with in town?
Well, when I came back, I've been coaching the soccer team. The JV coach, have been for about 6 years now, and it's just a great gig. I absolutely love the kids, and I'm involved in the Tykes, and going forward with my boys getting older, I'll be involved in everything.
Are you in favor of a new school building?
Well, of course I am. I am in favor of it, but I think you have to do it in an economical way. And I think that's really what I want to jump into and try to guide a little bit. I think it needs to be done. I think it will be done. But I think it needs to be done in a way that works in a community such as this.
What was your reaction to hearing about the upcoming teacher layoffs?
Well, layoffs are always tough. My mother was a teacher, my wife's a teacher. So being at the meeting and hearing that, not only are people losing their jobs, but you also have obviously increased sizes of classes. So, but it's an issue with budget. And when you're dealing with a budget, you have the numbers and you have to work within them. And that becomes a revenue issue. And that's not an issue that myself or one person can solve, but it becomes an issue I think that collectively we will have to come up with a way to increase revenue to the town and have that not be coming just from the taxpayers.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening and good luck.
Thanks very much for having me.
Hi, Paula. Welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're running for?
Sure. My name is Paula Kibbe, and I'm a candidate for re-election for my 3rd term for school committee.
Excellent. And you are running for your 3rd term, as you just said. Can you tell us about your first 2 terms and exactly what did you learn? What did you do?
Sure. The first 2 terms were really interesting for me. Having served on the school council, I had some idea as to how the budgets and the policy guides were put in place, but seeing it on the other end when it was completed and coming through us for different revisions and reviews and the process we go through was a learning experience, so that was great. And I learned a lot about the whole budget process overall as a town and how the school fits into it, and about the laws that apply to us and the confines in which we have to operate as a committee.
Okay. What exactly do you do on the school committee?
What exactly do we do on the school committee? Well, I personally try to do a little bit more. I often go to the Mass Association of School Committees Day on the Hill when I'm able. It's an annual event. I go up there and I try to advocate for public schools and education with our legislators. I go down to the annual convention in November when I'm able. And so I try to do a little bit above and beyond to educate myself as a school committee member. And then the rest of us, you know, we have to work, as you are well aware, as a body together, the 5 of us. So together as a committee, we oversee the superintendent, we set policies, we review and approve the budget. And we are on, as you and I are, on a policy subcommittee, so we're reviewing policies, making sure they're current, compliant with the law. We are involved with union negotiations, which has been quite a learning experience, and that's kind of the purview of the school committee.
And please tell me, why are you running for a 3rd term?
Because I'm crazy. I'm running for a 3rd term because I care so much about education and our kids, and I feel like it's my small way to take something I'm passionate about and be a part of something bigger to advocate for our kids and their education and their future.
Why do you think we need a new school building?
I think we need a new school building because the school building we currently have at the elementary school campus has gone way beyond in its years. It's not able to support our technology needs. It's has space constraints that are difficult for the teachers. We've gone through this before, but there's no walls in the pods, and that makes things challenging for focus and noise level. And I think it's time that we provide our children a safe and appropriate learning environment.
Paula, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gina.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Bob. Welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're running for?
Sure. My name is Robert Belbin. I live on 26 Gate Street in Carver, Mass. I've been a resident here for the past over 13 years, and I'm running for the Redevelopment Authority.
Bob, tell me, what is the Redevelopment Authority, and where does the Redevelopment Authority get its funding?
The Redevelopment Authority is an elected 5-member board. Currently, we have 4 members. We have 1 governor's appointment that is not filled, so technically we're a 4-member board right now. We're always looking for another member for the government appointment. And the way we get our funding is through the sale of properties right now of the town of Carver. That the town has properties that they take by tax title. We take those properties in, we fix them up, and then we sell them. And we've had very good luck in the past, prior to my coming on the board 2 years ago, for selling those properties and gaining money. And we take about 10% of that profit, and we use that money to help redevelop the town in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. What ideas do you have for the future?
Okay. With the Redevelopment Authority, because right now we don't have any properties to sell, we only have the money that we have now, which is around $40,000 to $50,000. With that money, we have to be frugal on how we spend that money. And some of the projects that I want to see in the future is a sign program where all the directional signs that are throughout the town, that we consolidate those to one sign that shows people where to go in town. That would actually offer money that the town could sell those signage, and people will know where to go. And instead of having 1 or 2 signs, there may be 8 or 9 signs there, but they're all consolidated, so they're not spread out. That's one. Another one is that the town should look at more of a housing options to spend money on for low-income housing, which we don't have a lot of those, or even senior housing there. So those are some of the future projects that I'd like to see.
Okay. Why is it important that the Redevelopment Authority follow the open meeting laws?
With me for years have always been about the open meeting law. The open meeting law is a set of laws that guide government to follow to make sure the public meetings are open to the public, that everything's done in public, not in private, although you can go into executive session. But even after executive session is done, they have to disclose what went on. For years, this town has had violations. And even the Redevelopment Authority has had a couple of violations in the open meeting law. And those ones need to be addressed. The problem is a lot of the town in Carver here, they have not addressed those issues. What they have done is said, we're not going to admit to anything. We're going to say no, no, no until the Attorney General's office says that they violated. And that's not the right way to go. We need to be open to the public. We need to disclose when we do something wrong. And that's what I've tried to do, is make people accountable for the open meeting law, to make sure that they know what it is. And without policies and procedures for our town that guide through the open meeting laws, we're not going to have any changes. So the open meeting law is very important that we as elected officials and appointed officials follow these laws and don't do anything behind closed doors. Don't do before the meetings and after the meetings, because those really do a disservice for our town.
What type of projects should the Redevelopment Authority stay clear of?
Okay. The Redevelopment Authority should stay clear of certain projects that don't benefit the town as a whole. The town has projects like solar. We should stay away from those, especially in residential areas. The solar issue here in town, it's there for a purpose other than residential. If it's a commercial entity, those solar projects should be in a commercial area, should not be in a residential area. Okay? The solar projects that we've had, it's sad that our fellow residents are now going to have to look at solar panels out of the back of their house when they were told that it was going to be a cranberry bog, and that's wrong. And those should be put in areas either commercial or up on the landfill areas. That's fine. If it's a resident that they need solar for residents, that's fine. But these big commercials, the Redevelopment Authority should stay away from any type of solar.
Bob, tell me, why do you want to be re-elected?
Okay. For the past 2 years, I've been on the Redevelopment Authority. And for the past 2 years, I've represented the residents here. And as representing the residents, I've made sure that the Redevelopment Authority has started some type of policies and procedures. I started a secretary policy. Pretty simple basics, where the secretary knows what their job and their role is. I asked this of the other members, for the chairman, the treasurer, the vice chairman, to have those policies out there too, to direct them, to have policy and guidelines. That's what I've requested, and the only policy that's been implemented is the secretary's policy. And even with that, right now the secretary's policy is not being followed, because I had to resign from the secretary's position because I filed open meeting law complaints, and Will Sinclair turned around and said that he's not going to answer any of my emails since I filed that open meeting law complaint. And therefore I was unable to post meeting minutes. I was unable to get direction to post an agenda, which is part of my job. And if I can't fulfill my job because of the actions of the chairman, then I can't do it. And I gave that position up. Then that position ended up going to a paid employee for the town that was never ever posted for the public. It went to a government employee, gets paid $50 to do our meeting minutes. I did it for nothing. Unfortunately, that's where this has come out to. I want to make sure that you, the public, knows that these are the things that are going on. And if you don't have an advocate for you to know what's going on, then it goes back to the old way of the Rick LaFawn days, where everything's done in back doors. And that's something we don't want to do here in town. We need to be open to the public. And that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be open. I'm going to let you know what's going on. Okay, one of the things that I do when I became the secretary is I recorded our meetings on tape recorder. And that has been a valuable asset to know what's actually going on, where the he said, she says are no longer, because it's on the record. Those recordings are there forever. And I've never erased any of those meetings. They've always been in their entirety. So I want to work for you. My job is to work for you. You elect me, I work for you. I want you to know what I can do for you, and this is what I can do, and this is what I mean. And any questions that anybody ever has for me, don't hesitate to ask.
Bob, thank you for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron. Welcome to the show. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you're running for?
Yes, I'm Ron Clark, and I'm running for the Board of Selectmen in the town of Carver.
Thank you.
Excuse me if I just wanted to mention that I bumped into your younger sister, Rosemary, the other day. She's just delightful. I just wanted to mention that at the start.
Ron, thank you. There has been a lot of talk in town about the conflict on recent boards of selectmen. How would you address that concern?
Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that it seems that the board has been not able to get along, not able to agree to disagree, and I guess I can only address it from the terms of when I was on the board in the past. I served 3 terms on the Board of Selectmen in the 90s and early 2000s, and I served with a variety of characters, a variety of personalities, and I'm sure, I include myself in that. And the one, I think, hallmark that we had was that we respected the position. Someone was elected to the board by the town, and you have to respect their position on the board, treat them with dignity and respect, and respect any opinion that they have. But what happened then, we'd debate the issues, we would make a decision, and whether you were on the majority or the minority, and whatever the vote was, we supported what the ultimate decision of the board was. There were some executive sessions that we had with, and I can remember a couple of fellow members that we were throwing furniture at each other practically during the executive sessions, but when it was over, we could shake hands and go out and even have a beverage on occasion after a meeting. And so I think it's just a matter of making sure that we treat everyone with respect, recognize that everyone has a right to their opinion, and don't take it to heart personally. It's their point of view on whatever issue it is that we're discussing, and respect it and then move on. Agree to disagree, essentially.
Excellent. We know you have previous experience as a selectman. What will you bring to the table this time around?
Well, when I first got on the board, we had just hired a new town administrator, and I'd say during my first term, we really spent a lot of time professionalizing the management of the town. Carver, back in the 70s, was a really small town. We grew fairly rapidly to a population of about 12,000, and the way we ran the town didn't keep up. So in '94, we brought our first town administrator on board, and that person, Rick LaFawn, had to carve out the position. It wasn't there. And so I'd say during my first and second term, it was all about trying to bring professional management to the town. I think we did that. We also were reacting to what was going on in fiscally, within the state and within the town. And I'd say we were reactive more than proactive. I think approaching this election, while we're still in some dire, financial straits, I think what I'd like to bring to the board is trying to have some sort of a vision of the future and future generations of Carver residents, and making decisions today that's going to make their lives better in the future. So when we have to we're going to have to be reactive. We have to deal with the issues that are facing us immediately. But I think what I do differently this time is to really try to focus on, when we take an action, what is going to be the effect of that down the road, and is there a better way to do it so that the impact on the citizens down the road is better, not worse?
Okay. What are 3 of your major campaign issues?
The first, and probably one of the things that got me running this year, was the getting a new elementary school. Okay. The elementary school we have now, that complex, is considered to be among the worst 5 in the state of Massachusetts. As you know, we've tried to get one on board a few times before. We haven't been able to do that. That is one thing I am dedicated to doing as we move forward. We can explore some funding alternatives, but ultimately, throughout the state, when it comes to building a school, you end up talking about a 20-year debt exclusion, and that's probably what ultimately is going to happen here. And I think we have to move forward. We have to think of future generations. Again, talking about the vision thing, we have to think of future generations of children and not just what's in our tax dollar today. We're a small town. We want to be a rural town, so it's always going to fall on us to pick up the cost of some of these major projects. But it is time for a school. We can't guarantee equality of results, but we should guarantee equality of opportunity, so all our children should have that opportunity.
Okay. What is your opinion on the solar installations in town?
Well, I think it's unfortunate what transpired up there on Purchase Street because, you know, not to be a NIMBY, not in my backyard type of person, I think none of us want to wake up and find out that there's going to be a giant solar array going in our backyard where we used to have trees or, you know, other houses, and so, you know, what we sort of bought into the neighborhood for. So that, you know, that was an unfortunate circumstance. We have a bylaw in place now that hopefully would prevent that from happening again. I'm in favor of solar. I think for solar installations in town can help raise tax revenue, which will help ease the burden on individual residents and taxpayers. But I think we may, you know, if we have to go back and tweak the current bylaw to make sure that there's enough of a buffer in residential neighborhoods so that it won't interfere and disrupt the neighborhood, then I think we should do that.
Okay. We know this is going to be another tight year fiscally for the town. Will it ever get better?
I think so. I like a lot of the initiative that the new town administrator is starting in on. What I've said throughout this campaign is we really need to throw everything on the table. Think outside the box. We still have some elements of the way we do business in government that are sort of archaic, that go back to the way things were done 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I think we have to take the budget apart, you know, and line by line, and see if everything still makes sense. A lot of it still will. A lot of it is necessary, but I think that we have to put everything on the table, take a look at it, and I think it will get better. We have to make some short-term decisions that may hurt, that might be painful, but again, down the road, we'll benefit for it.
Excellent. Ron, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Alan. Welcome to the show. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what position you're running for?
Yes, my name's Alan Dunham, in Carver here, running for the Board of Selectmen in town.
Excellent. And could you tell me, when did you move to Carver, and have you been on any other boards or committees?
Well, the first time I moved to Carver, I was just a child. We moved when I was 3, so I went through the Carver school system. In fact, when I went through in the 60s, all there was the Governor John. There wasn't any Irwin K. Washburn. Then after school and college, I went ahead and went out in the world, got married, had some kids, but I was finally able to move back here in 1993. So I've been here now a little over 20 years. Finally back to the town I love. As far as boards and committees, I have not served on any. I felt my best way to serve all the citizens of Carver was I was on the Carver Fire Department for 20 years. When I was growing up, my dad went ahead and he instilled in me that, you know, you have to give back to the town where you live. And he was on the finance committee, he was on school committee for 13 years, and he finished off his service to the town as the treasurer tax collector. So I followed that, but for me, it was firefighting. But that's a young person's game. It's time for me to move on.
Okay. What made you decide to run for the Board of Selectmen? By that I mean, what are the main issues you feel the town is facing?
The town's actually facing a lot of issues right now, but there are 3 that really stand out to me. One is a new elementary school for the children, not only children of today, but for future generations too. I mean, the time has come, we can't waste any more time with that. 2 is the drug problem. This is something that's been building over time, and it's really coming to the forefront. We have to do all we can do as a community, working together to try to end this scourge. And then finally, what really pushed me over the top was watching the Board of Selectmen and the way they dealt with each other over the last 2-3 years. They're not really working together as a team, and I think I can help bring that working as a team to the board.
Okay. You mentioned a new elementary school. That seems to be an issue that has divided the town. What are any thoughts on that?
It's divided the town, not so much that one side says we don't need a school, one side we do. I think everybody pretty much has come to an agreement now. We have to replace that elementary school. It was never meant to last this long. It has to get done. But what's always been in contention is how we fund it and whether we can afford it. And that was a big thing, saying we can't afford to pay for a new school now. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, we can't afford not to have a new school. The time is well past. Now, yes, we have to go ahead and look at creative ways of funding it. Maybe using some CPA money to use that to help build the fields and playgrounds that will be needed for a new school. Maybe we can use a little bit of money from the capital improvement plan that was put into effect, but that's not really enough money to go ahead and build a whole school. I'm afraid it is going to come down to, very well, to needing a debt exclusion. Now, to have that come to a ballot so the whole town can vote on it, it's going to take a supermajority of the Board of Selectmen. It's going to take 4 votes to put it on a ballot. And right now, I can tell you, I will definitely be voting to put it on a ballot if it comes to needing a debt exclusion. I know Mr. Clark also has stated unequivocally he will vote for it. I'm not so sure where Mr. Cardarelli stands on that. I know he's in favor of a new school, but I don't know if he'll be taking that step.
Okay. You also mentioned that you feel the Board of Selectmen has not been working for the whole town. Could you go into more detail on what you meant by that? That's
where the board has not really been working. Well, it seems like over the last few years, they're interested in one side or the other, and not, they're spending a lot of time talking at each other or past each other, but they're not talking to each other. They're not listening to each other, and they're not reaching a consensus or a compromise. Those are 2 words I have not seen the board use in a couple of years now. Whenever you have an issue, you've got to bring it to the forefront to have the discussion, and go ahead and talk about it, the pros and cons, because both sides, have to have valid points. But then you talk together. You find out, you reach a middle ground where you can go ahead and come together. And the board hasn't been interested in doing that. It seems like they've been more interested in making their backers, because we do have, unfortunately, in town, we have a pretty split on the extremes. We have a large middle where people are being reasonable, but you have some very solid and hardcore in their positions. And I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong, but the problem is you have to get those people, both sides, to talk together, get into a conversation and a dialogue. The other problem is the board's not really discussing matters. If an item comes before the board, and let's say it's a divisive issue, they're going ahead and they're standing up there, and Ms. Hewins will say her piece, Ms. Marone will say hers, and then Jack Franey and Dick Ward. But they'll say a set little piece, but they're not talking to each other. They're just getting what they wanted to say out there, and then they're taking the vote. So there's not a real discussion. There's an issue. They go ahead and they voice their point of view, but they don't try to work together to discuss it, to try to reach the best answer for the entire town. And that's what I'll do if I'm elected, is to always work for the betterment of the entire town, not one side or another.
Okay. Do you feel there is more the Board of Selectmen can do to combat the drug problem in Carver? Are there other areas you think the board could be involved with?
The board has started to take steps on that, but I think they can do more in the way of support, giving the police department the resources they need to help go ahead and combat this problem. Now, they've already directed Mr. Malinowski, the town administrator, to go ahead and find a way to fund a new detective and a new resource officer for this next year, FY15. That's a good start. Also, there's a group called Mobilizing the Community, which was really started by the school. Another tremendous. I'm part of that group, as well as, probably a little over 100 people from the community are together. We'd like to see more come in on that. But that's the type of thing that the Board of Selectmen has to support. Supporting the town police force, supporting these individual groups to go ahead and really work together, because this is going to be a long, hard fight, because the drugs are in town so hard. It's going to take a lot to go ahead and kick them out of town. As far as other things the board could do, I'd like to see the Board of Selectmen work in conjunction with the school committee to go ahead and start pushing back on the state for unfunded mandates. That is really costing our schools an awful lot of money, and it's actually, because they're unfunded, it's a hidden tax that we're all having to pay. Now, I'm not against mandates, because the state, is looking out for the children and to make sure everybody gets a good, equal education. And that's important, and I agree with that. But I don't agree with the state going ahead and not funding it. Now, the residents of Carver, we can go ahead and fight this and go to our local representatives, but this is going to take something that has to be voted on by the entire state legislature. So I'd like to see the Board of Selectmen reach out to other towns, to their boards and city councils or whatever, and then also work through the school departments to find out exactly how much each town is having to pay for these unfunded mandates, and push back on our representatives and state senators saying, look, yes, it's fine, but you have to come up with a much more fair way of doing it, because right now it's really unequal. Some towns have to pay a lot, into it and as an unfunded tax to support these programs, while other towns, they don't have to pay as much. It's based on enrollment, and that's not fair. So Carver right now is really getting hammered with it. If we weren't having all the unfunded mandates, our school budget would be in much better shape.
Alan, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck.
It's my pleasure, and if anybody needs to contact me, they can go to my Facebook page, Alan Dunham for Carver Selectman. Ask me any question you want. I'll get back and answer you on it. And you'll also be able to see some other stands I've taken.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Hi, Andy. Welcome to the show. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us which position you are running for?
Hi, Gina. My name is Andrew Cardarelli. I'm running for the position of Carver Selectman in town.
You are presently the Vice Chairman of the Carver Finance Committee. How did you come to be on the committee, and what have your main goals been as a member?
How I came to be on the committee was I had noticed our taxes going up since we had moved here in 2010. They had steadily increased year after year, and instead of complaining about it, I decided to do something and volunteer for the committee. Actually the former town accountant, John Adams, suggested that I join after I was in his office asking for information about some budgetary issues. And my goals have always been looking out for the people, trying to keep an eye out for how much people pay in taxes in the little way that I can. I have a tendency to ask questions and ask departments why and why not and things like that, and I try to put the residents first.
Sure. Taxes are always an election topic. What are your views on Carver's property taxes?
Well, like I said, I believe they're pretty high for what we get. That's the number one thing I have seen being out in the neighborhoods, going and talking to people. I always ask people, "What's your main concern in town?" And the number one is always taxes. Taxes are too high, and the businesses also reflect this as well. And really what needs to happen is we need to control spending in the town, but we also need to look to generate new forms of revenue, bringing in certain appropriate businesses, and maybe we can hire some people as well in town.
Okay. If you are elected to the Carver Board of Selectmen, what would you do to help bring businesses to Carver, and what would you do to help the existing businesses already?
Okay, this goes into my last question. Well, I had spoke to. I've been in discussions at different times with our town planner, and I had actually mentioned this at one of the debates. My idea would be to, let me just go back a little bit. The town planner explained to me that the town has done everything they can do to streamline the process of bringing a business here to make it more attractive, and that's wonderful. But you need to be more aggressive, because there are towns, we're in a competition right now with many different towns for these businesses, and I think you need to get on the phone, send letters, go do anything you can to go be aggressive and bring them here. And if that means me getting on the phone and doing it, I will do it. I'll do whatever you have to do. Because that's being a servant of the people, or wanting to be. That's part of your responsibility, to do the best you can for them.
Okay. The potential replacement of the Washburn and Governor John Carver schools continues to be a hot topic in the town. Where do you stand on this issue?
Something needs to be done with the schools. I've said this from day one. Mm-hmm. I've been kind of labeled that I'm anti-school by some people because I question finances, and it's just my nature. Mm-hmm. That is not true. I believe something needs to be done, but what I'd like to see happen is every option brought to the table, starting with the new school building committee. Let's see every option, from the one that was I think it's B3 that's in process now, or was chosen before, from renovation to repair to a brand new school to something at a different site up here at the campus, and bring all the costs together. But really what I want to see happen is I'd love to see a new school in Carver, I really would, but I think the people need to be truly informed of how much this is going to cost them in their tax bills before they're asked to vote for it, and what they're asked to vote for, what the plan is, because this could affect people's bottom lines, and so that's basically what I'm watching out for. But I think everybody wants something to be done with the school.
Okay. Where do you stand on the current drug problem Carver is facing, and how do we stop it?
I have watched people in my own circle that were in my work who was a heroin addict. I had been lied to. I had had things stolen from me. I knew it was never him. It was the drugs, and I felt bad for his wife and his family. And I watch what's happening now in town. I watch people dying. I watch people and families be left behind, and it's awful. And I think the key is education of the families, number one, to notice when something is going on, notice when their child is acting a certain way, go to see the signs. You know, so that's a very important part. The other part is to almost, this is going to sound a little bad, but almost put the fear of God into the kids when they're young, to never, ever, ever try not only heroin, but prescription drugs. When you're going into someone's medicine cabinet and saying, oh, what's this? And let's try that. Because I think studies have shown that the heroin use starts most of the times with the prescription drug abuse. So I think education on that part is also important. And I think the community needs to start, well, actually the community has already started with the Mobilizing the Community movement, which I've been at. You need the community to get together and say, hey, listen, we're not going to have this in our town anymore. And whether it be community watch, whether it be whatever the idea is, I think if you have a mass of people just saying not in our town, then I think it gives the whole town strength, and it gives the pushes warning not to do this in our town. You know.
Indy, thank you for joining us, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Gina.
Thank you for joining us tonight on this edition of Carver in Focus. We'd like to thank all of the candidates for taking time to speak with us. We'd also like to thank the crew, and especially our sponsor, setting the space for tonight's set. Lastly, tonight is a bittersweet moment here for us at Carver in Focus, and for me personally, as tonight will be the last Carver in Focus to have Ken Bukes on the crew. Ken, thank you for all of your help, expertise, and encouragement to me and the rest of the crew. You will be missed. I am Gina Hanlon-Kavicki. We'll see you again next time on Carver in Focus.